All right, everybody, welcome to another Thursday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. And it is Thursday, so obviously we will be getting to power rankings. Gil is filling in for Adam once again this week. So, Gil, thank you for doing that. And before we get to power rankings and start the show up, it just seems like the Chicago Blackhawks can't handle this Kyle Beach situation any worse, and then they do. So let's roll. Well, we're gonna roll the intro and then we'll roll the video. So let's get started here.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome again to the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. From Locked On Avalanche, I am Chris Maselli. From Locked On Islanders, Gil Martin filling in on the Thursday edition. You know Gil well if you are a frequent flyer of the Locked On NHL podcast. So, Gil, thank you for filling in once again for our good friend Adam.
Well, thanks for having me. Always fun to do a show with you. I had you on this past weekend, so it's
yes,
nice to have. I'll bring you in, you bring me in. It's all good.
Mi casa, su casa, as they say.
There you go.
All right, and if you tune in on Thursdays for power rankings, we will get to those in the next segment. But when things go on in the NHL. That are kind of big news, we're still going to talk about it here. We just won't just throw all of our eggs into the power ranking basket. And when there are things that are of importance, we're going to discuss it. And once again, how the Chicago Blackhawks are handling the Kyle Beach situation could not be any more horrid. And it happened again. And we have the clip that's been circulating on Twitter. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds. We'll show that. But do you know what this was? This just, it was a press conference with, it seemed like maybe the bigwigs of the Blackhawks right now. I'm not sure what the setting was of this meeting. Are you aware of what it was?
Not exactly sure, but I know Rocky Wirtz was there. A number of other executives from the front office appear to have been there. And it was a Q&A. Maybe they were doing something at the All-Star break to, give reporters something to write about while the team was off for a few days, but whatever it wasn't pretty.
No. So let's roll that 1.5 minute clip now, and then Gil and I will talk about it on the other end of it.
What happened to Kyle Beach stemmed from a power imbalance between a coach and a player, and the powerlessness of a player in that situation. So what are the Blackhawks doing? What have the Blackhawks done? What will the Blackhawks do to empower a player in a similar situation to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I'm going to answer the question at the end. I think the report speaks for itself. The people that were involved are no longer here. We're not looking back at 2010. We're looking forward. And we're not going to talk about 2010. I know, and I'm not either. And we're not going to talk about what happened. We're moving forward. That is my answer. Now, what's your next question?
I can pick up to what we are doing today. And I think
no, I don't know. That's none of your business. That's none of your business. What we're going to do today is our business. I don't think it's any of your business.
How is it not my business?
Because I don't think it's any of your business. You don't work for the company. If someone in the company asks that question, we'll answer. And I think you should get on to the next subject. We're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. We're not going to talk about anything that happened. Now, we're moving on. What more do I have to say? You want to keep asking the same question? You hear the same answer? Okay, ask the next question. Okay.
So there you have it. I'm kind of speechless because they just keep putting their foot in their mouth, and you have to expect you're going to get questions on this for the foreseeable future, maybe for the rest of your life. You're going to have to answer questions to this. And when you handle it like that, when you deflect and say it's none of your business because you don't work for the organization, that is if there's a blackboard of things to not say in a press conference involving this specific topic, that is it. This is everybody's business.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's no statute of limitations on this when it comes to the public. This is something that is a stain on the Chicago Blackhawks franchise forever, and how they want to handle it. If it's like this, that stain is just going to be darker and darker. It's not going to lighten up at all.
Yeah, it really, his statement that we're not going to talk about 2010 is wrong, because he didn't ask about 2010. He asked, what are you doing now so that 2010 doesn't happen again? So he's not asking about 2010. He's saying, what have you done since this all came to light to be different now so it doesn't repeat itself? And to say that that's none of the public's business, because let's face it, the press in this instance is really the mouthpiece, the eyes and ears of the public. To say that's nobody's business is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get overly specific. You don't have to,
Yeah.
you don't have to show them the entire written guidelines that your organization is using, but at least say, look, we've taken steps to address it. We have a plan in place. It's a lengthy plan. We have learned from our past mistakes, and we're hoping to make sure that something like this can't happen again in our organization. Just be constructive and be honest. You don't even have to go into great detail, but to brush it aside and to say it's nobody's business, that believe me, that's not the end of the questions. Let's put it that way. That's inviting more questions in the future, because you're hiding something, or at least it appears that you're hiding something.
And the way that you just phrased that is a million times better than what he did. Like what you said, if you don't want to get into the specific, then give the boring answer. Mm-hmm. Just give the boring answer, like exactly what you said. Well, there's things we're putting into place. I think in time, people are going to want to see that, what action you're taking. But for now, you could have just given a sufficient answer of like you said, what's going on now? Fine. We don't have to talk about 2010 if you don't want to. Fine. Point taken. Let's talk about right now. What are you doing to address it? And that's his answer. And then to have another guy on the stage kind of interject and try to go down the road of what we're doing now. And he cuts him off and says, he shuts him up and says, we're not going to talk about it. This is just, it's mind blowing to me how they cannot handle this. And they've obviously learned nothing. Absolutely nothing is kind of my take on the powers that be in the Chicago Blackhawks.
The only explanation I can even think of at this point is that somebody, probably a lawyer for the organization, said, don't address it. And he took it, further than it needed to be taken, because if you would have given that general answer that I was suggesting, you're not getting into any kind of trouble. But to literally shout down one of your own people on that stage and not let them even broach the subject at all just sends the wrong message to everybody, because something like that damages lives. Kyle Beach can never be made whole. No matter what happens, the damage to his life is there, and it's permanent, and it's wrong. And just to not address it at all, to shout somebody down like that and cut them off, it just sends the message, right or wrong, that you don't care. And that's the last thing that the organization wants to send as a message right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to have the combative nature is just, you're makes me feel like you're not addressing anything. You're not addressing any, because if you were, you would have said that. You would have said, like, this is what we're doing. I don't want to get into specifics, but we'll have our plan, or whatever you want to say. But to get combative means that you're just hoping this goes away in time, and it's not going to. So, all right. Well, let's hear from Bet Online, and then we'll get into some power rankings and kind of talk about some things going on in the hockey world as we have reached kind of the All-Star break and halfway point of the season.
Indeed, we have. Well, this episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the playoffs right to the big game in a couple of weeks. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just football. BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live, real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right. So, let's get into some power rankings for this week. We are, like I said, at the halfway point with the All-Star break around the corner. So, and once again, not a ton of movement going on with the power rankings, but we'll kind of dive into them and kind of maybe look into the crystal ball and look forward to the second part of the season and if anybody can make a big jump. So let's, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll go full screen on that and you can take a good look. There we go. And if you're listening in your car or wherever you may be listening, we'll go through the top 10 and then kind of break things down like we always do. So the Carolina Panthers, again, at number 1 through 5 stay the same.
Florida Panthers.
The Panthers at 1. I didn't say Carolina, did I?
You did.
Oh my Lord. Holy, I'm in that sport, Super Bowl mode. So the Florida Panthers at number 1, the Colorado Avalanche at number 2, Lightning at 3, Hurricanes at 4, the Miami Hurricanes at 4, the Toronto Maple Leafs at 5, Penguins at 6, the Rangers at 7, the Minnesota Wild enter the top 10. They were 11 last week. They are number 8. The Predators at number 9 and the Washington Capitals round out the top 10. Now, we were told that the Colorado Avalanche were 2 votes away from taking away the top spots from the Panthers. So for me, I'm going to switch things around over here on the YouTube side. That's a good boon for my boys because they are playing well. Yes, they did lose to the Coyotes the other day. We don't need to talk about that because that's next week's power rankings. We don't need to talk about that right now. But up until recently, they've been on a tear. So yeah, I think they're deserving to be right up there. A little frustrated with the lack of movement from top to bottom here, Gil.
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be a little bit more. And the Capitals falling from 7 to 10, and now a little good luck timing wise. Alexander Ovechkin testing positive for COVID, so he misses the All-Star game, but he may not miss any actual Capitals regular season games because of the timing of his positive diagnosis. So obviously we wish Alexander Ovechkin a quick and complete and speedy recovery, but a little luck there for the Capitals as far as the timing goes.
I kid around with that, but I mean it's a serious thing. But yeah, I mean, what a time to catch that is. Maybe there's no good time to get it. I'm not trying to say that, but if you're gonna get it, I guess during the week off, where it's not really gonna hurt your team that much. That's when you do it, I guess. But yeah, so they're down to number 10, which knocks the Vegas Golden Knights out of the top 10, which they've been in there for a little while. So they are down to 11. And do you think they are just like counting the days until Eichel comes back? And I don't know what to expect though. You can't just assume he's going to come back and then they're just going to take off and ascend right to number 1 in these power rankings. You don't know what you're getting from him.
No. This is what you're getting. This is the master plan. If you're the Vegas Golden Knights, you get Eichel back. He, isn't in game shape yet. He's going to struggle. He's going to adjust to his new teammates. He's going to play like 35 regular season games if he stays healthy. His numbers will be below what his career numbers are. But by the time the playoffs come, he'll be in shape. He'll know his teammates. He'll know his role. He'll know the system. And if they get, the expected Jack Eichel come playoff time, they'll be very happy.
So you think it's just a getting to know you phase for
Mm-hmm.
whenever he comes back, just feel out those handful of games. Yeah, 30 games or so. Likely. We don't really know, but we're guessing it's to be about that much. And then when the playoffs come around, just go all out. Yeah,
Plug
I
in,
think that
plug in Jack Eichel. Yeah.
what a horrible thing to have in your back pocket, Jack Eichel. So I mean, they're going to be someone to watch for the duration of the rest of the season for a number of reasons, especially when he comes back. One of the I guess one of the biggest movers. When Kyle and I did this, or not Kyle, Adam and I did this last week. I said that I put Edmonton. I couldn't put him at 32 because I just feel like the Canadians just have that on lockdown. But I did put him at 31 because they were playing horrid. And I think power rankings are more a sign of what's going on right now. And, I don't feel like the beginning of the year that they had, which was very good, should keep them propped up, just expecting them to finally turn it around. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But where they were at that point in time last week, for me, was the 31st place team in the league. They didn't drop too much in the rankings. I think I was the only one that really kind of felt that way. And then for this week, they are kind of turning it around. They're playing a little bit better. I mean, they're winning games now. So now they've gone back up to 19. Is that always going to be the case with the Oilers when you have Draisaitl and McDavid? People are just not going to give up on them ever.
No, people are not going to give up. There's too much talent. There's too much name recognition when you're looking at these votes, even among knowledgeable hosts like the 32 people who vote on this. When you see the team name Edmonton Oilers, you think, oh, McDavid, Draisaitl, they're good. So and then quickly name 5 players on the Seattle Kraken. No offense to Kraken fans, but
Right.
the name recognition and the talent level certainly helps. You might flip it on its head and say, well, you've got all these talented players, you should be doing better, and
Right.
hold it against them. But most of the time that name recognition works in their favor.
Mm-hmm. Now, one team that Adam and I talked about a lot in the beginning of the season was your boys, the New York Islanders. And we talked about it. I think we had the same Stanley Cup
We
picks,
did.
didn't we? Yeah, we had Avalanche and Islanders. So that was how we were talking about with the Oilers, kind of turning things around. You kept waiting for the Islanders to do it. It never happened. Are they? I mean, how do they handle the rest of the season? Is it just, yeah, we want to go out and win games, obviously, but is it kind of like taking stock of how guys are playing? Is it because before we went live here, they lost to Seattle? You're telling me
3-0, yeah, at home. Was an embarrassing performance. Only 19 shots on goal. And yeah, I mean, I think what you have to do if you're the Islanders is you play the veterans until you're pretty darn sure you're not going to make the playoffs this year. Then you shop those veterans. I mean, would somebody take a Zdeno Chara at the trade deadline as a rental player? Would somebody take a Zach Parise at the trade deadline as a rental player? A guy who could be useful as a second penalty power play kind of a guy, a veteran leader. Get a couple of draft picks or get a younger player or two. I don't think the Islanders need to rebuild, but I think they do need to restock and regroup a little bit. Obviously, COVID and playing their first 13 games this year on the road because of the new arena didn't help this team. But this year is looking more and more like a lost cause as we reach the All-Star game.
now this isn't all horrible, but because they do have 6 games in hand on the Philadelphia Flyers, and we all know the trials and tribulations the Flyers are going through, but they're tied with them in points.
Yep.
I know they have 6 games in hand, and when those all play out, you would likely think they'll be ahead of them a little bit, but that's not good when you're tied with a team who lost 13 games. They won a couple games in overtime, but 13 losses in a row, and you don't make any headway on at least that team. No good. No good.
Not good. Pretty. No question. I mean, look, the Islanders went 0-8-3 when COVID hit the team really hard in
Yeah.
November and early December. So the Flyers beat them. They went 13 games without a win, but
Right.
yeah, it's tough to overcome that.
All right. Well, let's hear from Rock Auto, and then kind of, are there any teams that can make that St. Louis Blues from last place to Stanley Cup champion in the course of a few months ascension in the power rankings? So we'll talk about that. But first, rockauto.com. With the ever increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. So why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands that their warehouse happens to carry? Well, you have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are reliably low for every customer, so go explore their easy-to-use website and find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us section, so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right. Yeah. So we said there hasn't been a lot of movement in the rankings here and there. If you're watching on YouTube, you see some green arrows and some yellow arrow or red arrows. But are there teams that you're kind of looking at for the second portion of the season that are maybe on the little bit on the outside, toying with a wild card spot, that know they need to put it together to make a run and can do it and are built to do that? Is there anybody that you're kind of focused in on?
You look at this list, I'm going to focus in on the 20 spot and the Winnipeg Jets. I think they have a little more talent than 20th best in the league. They can certainly get into the playoffs with a nice little streak at some point. And once they get there, if they get solid goaltending, they can go toe-to-toe with anybody, I think. So I'd be wary of Winnipeg if I were in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they were one of those teams that you were kind of thinking could really make a run at the division if they got everything in line, and it just hasn't worked out for them. And it's, again, one of those like toe in the line teams where if they can put it together, yeah, they could definitely move up and grab a playoff spot. I could definitely see that happening. You are looking in that realm, in that like late teens to the mid 20s area. That's where you would look for teams like that.
How about
I don't know.
You have one?
Yeah, like I don't know if they can make a run at. I don't see it happening. This is more or less what I like to see it happen. And this is odd coming from an Avalanche fan. The Detroit Red Wings. I just like those young and up and coming teams that just play loose and free and know that like nothing is expected out of them in terms of, making a deep run into the playoffs or even maybe challenging a playoff spot. I like those teams because that's how they play. It's just, we're just going to go out, play our game, have fun, win some games, and maybe we can make a run at this thing. And if they make it, which I don't think they are, I think they're just too far out of it. And that's the thing with the Eastern Conference is the playoffs are kind of like set already for those teams. You know what I mean? Like the Red Wings are 9 points behind Boston, and Boston has 5 games in hand on them. So this is like, this is the most uphill battle you can ever climb with a young team. You just don't see it happening. I guess maybe more is like, just watch the Red Wings play. And I think you're just going to see them keep improving as the season goes on. Probably won't, like I said, get a playoff spot, but I think they're just an exciting and upcoming team. And maybe they can carry that into next year. Maybe sign a couple free agents and that'll be exciting. As far as, like I said, the Eastern Conference, things seem to be set up because you have Boston way ahead of Detroit, who's number 4 and number 5. In the Metropolitan, you have the Capitals at 4, and the Blue Jackets are 6 18 points behind them. So that is all set. In the Western, at least for the Central, it's a little, I mean, the Blues at 57 points, the Dallas Stars are number 5.
Yeah, that would be the next team I would mention if you were giving me a second
Go
choice.
ahead.
Would be
Yeah,
Dallas.
would be Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you could see, again, a team that's streaky. They're a streaky team. Can they put it together? But the Pacific, as far as a division goes, is maybe the most hotly contested one. That's going to be that going down to the wire, which are the top 3 teams? Because let's see, you have Calgary at 50, San Jose at 48, Edmonton still in it at 49, and Edmonton has games in hand. So yeah, could Edmonton be that team? What do you think?
Not sold on their defense yet and their goaltending.
That's the sticking point.
That to me is, offensively, they could stay with anybody, outscore anybody, but it's not 1986, and you don't win too many titles winning games 7-5. So
yeah, right, exactly. So there are some teams to watch. This is not over yet, and there's going to be some exciting runs, and don't be surprised when these games will come down to the last game or two to decide who gets those last couple, the last 2 wild card spots, because that's a hockey season. That's the point system that we have is awesome because for this very reason. So you're never out of it. So that's going to wrap things up for today and our Thursday edition of the Power Rankings. Once again, Gil, thank you for sitting in for Adam.
Thank you.
Obviously, always appreciated. And he might be back next week. If not, we'll have Gil in again because we all love Gil. So go check him out on the Locked On Islanders podcast. And you can find me over at Locked On Avalanche. If you're watching on YouTube, let's go full screen with these power rankings one more time to get a good view. And thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And we'll see you guys next week.